Hi, Fred. How are you?
I am doing great. It's good to be with you.
It's a pleasure to have you on. I'm very happy you agreed to come on and be a guest.
Well, happy to. You had such a parade of guests from so many members of the low code industry and my colleagues as well. I thought, well, I'm happy to follow in their footsteps.
Amazing. And I've followed your videos on LinkedIn, so it's nice to, speak to someone who's, kind of creating as much awareness as they can. Obviously, you're focused on the security side, but it's nice that, you're using your knowledge to spread it out, across, LinkedIn's of millions of people, right? So I'm sure there's enough eyes getting on your videos.
Well, I appreciate that. As you can attest, you kind of never know who's actually
Yes.
watching those videos, and you can see the stats. And sometimes I get a little discouraged on mine, like, oh, only so many people saw it,
Yeah.
most of them are my coworkers, and I'm thinking like,
Yeah.
well, that's
Yeah.
nice, and I'm glad they're watching it. But I'd really
Yeah.
would wish for people that would like to learn more about OutSystems and low code, and especially security to view it. But here's the thing, and you probably experienced this as well. I'll go to different events and I'll have people come and say, "Hey, Fred, I love your
Yeah.
videos." I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah.
"Whoa, well, okay, well that's great." So people are seeing the content. It is
Yes.
getting out there, and I appreciate what you do and with the Drag and Drop podcast as well. And so I really appreciate the effort and the time you put into that. Even though I try to keep my videos really short, like
Yeah.
2 minutes. But I
Yeah.
do spend quite a bit of time on the front end and the back end, trying to make them somewhat presentable.
Yeah.
And I know with your content being much longer, that the time and effort that you put into it is, it's kind of one of those behind the scenes thankless tasks.
Yes.
But I really, from
Yeah.
one content creator to another,
Yes. I
I
appreciate
really do
it. Thank you.
appreciate it. You
Thank
bet.
you. Thank you. And like you said, obviously I think a lot of people in the OutSystems ecosystem would know you, but it'd be good for those who don't to know a bit
Yeah.
about you and your background.
Absolutely. So I just couldn't really believe it when I started thinking about how I got into IT and into this field. But it's been almost 25 years
Wow.
since I've been in. And so when I started in software quality assurance as an entry level web application tester. And the people that conducted my interview said, "Boy, Fred, you really have a good, keen eye for detail. And so we're going to make you a QA analyst." And I'm like,
Yeah.
I have no idea what that means.
Yeah.
And so basically, I worked with .NET, web.NET, or .NET developers making web applications, and I was their primary tester and bug writer, and coming up with weird ways to break their application, and I learned the phrase of, "Well, it works on my machine,"
Yeah.
quite a bit. And but what it taught me was that just the different perspectives you need and of users and approaches of how to use an application. Developers, I love software developers. I'm jealous of them because I just don't have that analytical skill to think of how to reuse modules and things of that nature. It's not my strong suit. But also too, being able to provide that perspective of, well, here's how our user may use this, and like, oh, I never thought of that. I never thought that there might be
Yeah.
this isn't a very old use case, but there may be a name with an apostrophe in it, and that might
Yeah.
terminate a string. Now, in 2025, that's not a problem anymore. But in 1999,
Yeah.
that was. And so anyway, so that's how I started. So for the first basically half of my career, I spent was part of QA teams, leading QA teams, and then in let's say the 2010s, mobile app development was starting to come up, and
Yeah.
I got shifted to kind of this small skunkworks project. Where I was the lead Android and iOS tester for one of my company's first mobile apps. And so that was really exciting because I got to learn new technologies. I got to put Xcode on a MacBook and then write behavioral tests with the Cucumber framework, and
Yeah.
learn about those things. And so I really got the chance to learn. And then also the data we were collecting from this mobile app was being ingested into a business intelligence platform. And they said, "Fred, we want you to basically be the admin of this BI platform." I'm like, oh, okay. So I started learning about that and how to administer that, and it was one of the first systems that was hosted fully in AWS. So the data collection for the mobile app was in AWS. The EC2 instances that were hosting the servers for the BI platform was in AWS. I learned a lot about virtual server administration and the very important checkbox on rebooting a server. And I accidentally left that checkbox on once and caused a mini outage in production, and never heard the end of it. So I handed that task off. Make sure that would never happen again. But and so from that standpoint, the CIO that I really respected came over to my desk one day, says, "Fred, I need your help." It's like, "Well, sure." He said, "I am sick and tired of filling out all of these security questionnaires for our company, and I think this would be a great opportunity for you." And I look at him, I'm like, "You want me to fill out questionnaires?"
Yeah.
And we talked through it quite a bit. And actually, what he was doing was grooming me to be our company's first director of security. And so at that point, we were just getting started. We were in our second year of having a SOC 2 Type 2 audit. Going through that process. So he wanted me to lead and manage that process. He asked me to lead our security awareness program, where we went from a 40% click rate on phishing emails to sub 2% in a span of about 2 years. I'm still really proud of that. That was a really because it gave me my first. It really led to what I'm doing today. In essence, it gave me my first chance of creating videos, internal videos for my coworkers on security topics. Now, since it was part of our security awareness program, I was able to basically force all of my coworkers to watch these videos. So I had a captive audience. But it really gave me the opportunity to share basic cybersecurity tips, like, go to an airport, don't randomly plug your device into a into a USB cable, just plug it into a hardware or a regular plug, those kind of things. But it was relatable, and it really helped kind of shape me into this world of cybersecurity and learning about certifications and attestations and reviewing contract language. And really kind of focused on the managing vendor review process, third-party security. And so from there, so I spent, prior to joining OutSystems, spent the last 5 years serving as a security leader. And one of the best things about that role was being able to reach out to other security leaders in my local geographic area. I'm from Kansas City, in the center of the United States. And so I was invited to attend a local security leaders meeting. And here's all of these CISOs from various companies, various industries, and I got to learn about all of their daily challenges, their frustrations. They hate security questionnaires too, by the way. And so from there, it was just, so the request from my CIO, and thank you, Dennis, if you're listening to this, really shaped me and put me on this path to security, which I never in a million years would have thought that I would have been in a cybersecurity role, or or even a leadership role for that matter. So that's the long-winded story of how I got started. And then right in the middle of the pandemic, or kind of coming out of the pandemic, I got a call from a former colleague of mine who had joined OutSystems. He says, "Fred, we have this security position open, and we think you'd be great for it." I'm like, "Oh, great." And I'm thinking it's a kind of like a security operations position. It's probably something to do with audits. It's something, maybe security awareness training. And so I started talking with, going through the process and learning about OutSystems. And then it just kind of went, "Well, this sounds really different." And they said, "No, Fred, this is in our go-to-market area." And I was like, "Well, wait a minute." It's like, I don't know anything about go-to-market sales. And I mean, I've been in IT operations for 20 plus years. And they said, "Oh no, so we need your help basically on customer calls, advocating for our security posture, and really helping, and then also just internally helping bridge the gap between the OutSystems security office and our sales teams." Because, believe it or not, sometimes salespeople like to overpromise. Have you ever heard? Can you believe that?
I've done a lot.
Yeah. But I will say that the last 3 years have been amazing, just because of, I have great colleagues, but also I've got to have calls with so many different, security-minded folks from so many different industries, banks, oil and gas, yeah, power, basically,
Mm.
just all different kinds of organizations, state and local governments. Um, I mean, we talked with a penitential system from one of the
Wow.
states on the West Coast. So I'm thinking like, wow, I never thought I'd be talking with
Yeah.
this type of company. But you know what? They have the same challenges, right? They have the
Yeah.
same. They wanted to automate the collection of their visitors log, and
Wow.
when people come to visit, and that's kind of
Yeah.
important. You need to track
Yeah.
who's visiting
Yeah.
people in a penitentiary.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but
Yeah.
just the various use cases that OutSystems is used for just blew me away. And and I still kind of get baffled a little bit because when people, family and friends, I talk to them and say, "Oh, Fred, so what are you doing now? And who are you working with?" And I say OutSystems, and 99.9% of people say, "Never heard of them. What do they
Yeah.
do?"
Of course. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and so then that gives me the opportunity to be an advocate and share. And so in my videos on LinkedIn, that's all I'm trying to do is promote not only just OutSystems and how we can help businesses build their platforms faster or build their applications on our platform faster, but also more secure and really highlight those the security points of our platform.
Yeah. And then, like you said, when you're speaking to friends and family, 99% don't know what OutSystems is.
Yeah.
When you got that call from your ex-colleague, had you heard of OutSystems?
No, I sure haven't. Never heard of him, and he had to explain, the process. Now I'd heard of the low
Mm.
code, but it was all more of I was more familiar with Power Apps
Yeah.
and advanced web forms and those kind of things. I wasn't. I did not fully appreciate the type of applications that can be built on this platform. One of the ones that really wowed me during the recruitment process was there's a customer in APAC that built a safety security application on our platform for construction workers. And each construction worker had a special RFID tag in their helmet,
Helmet. Wow.
and so it would detect the sensor would detect if that helmet was in or was not in the proper work area or zone. And so from a safety standpoint, so if this person is in an unsafe area, it would send an alert to someone so they could go take care of it and investigate. I'm thinking like, well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Real-time notification that could potentially,
Wow.
and hopefully save someone's life if needed, or pull someone out of harm's way. I mean, I was like, wow. I mean, that's fantastic. And so that was just one of those things. Like, wow, that this platform can have those type of mission
Yeah.
critical applications. Wow. And then
Yeah.
and learning about other fintech companies and banks and the thousands of transactions an hour that
Yeah.
we process on our platform. Like, wow. And those companies trust us. Then we have to have a secure
Yeah.
platform, right? There's no option. We have to
Yeah.
have it. So
Yeah.
that's really how I started learning about OutSystems was
Yeah.
during the recruitment process.
Yeah. Was any part of you skeptical? Well, obviously you're going through it, and any technology, not just OutSystems, the use cases that are on their website, they're obviously there because
Sure.
those customers have agreed to say something good. Doesn't always
Yeah.
mean it's accurate, or just
Yeah.
even you're not gonna highlight the cons, right? You're just gonna talk about
Oh,
the great
sure.
stuff. So was any part of you skeptical about, okay, can these guys actually do what they're saying they can do on their website?
Well, so when I really learned how long tenured OutSystems has been in
Mm.
EMEA and in APAC
Mm.
and all of the different applications that have been built by various customers. I mean, transportation, industries and things of that nature, and oil and gas. And I'm thinking like, wow. So this is really a powerful platform. It's just we just don't have the awareness in North America
Yeah.
yet. And I think that was maybe more of a concern initially about again, it's kind of like walking through an airport or a developer conference or walking through the mall and say, hey, if someone say, hey, you have an OutSystems shirt on, or say, OutSystems, what's that? And I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah.
okay, here we go. And I have to kind of go through. So I have a ton of practice with the elevator pitch of
Yeah.
OutSystems.
Okay. Nice. Yeah.
So, but I think really my biggest concern joining OutSystems was just this fundamental shift of the role And also too, this was a new role within the Department of OutSystems. So we have fantastic solution architects that are basically OutSystems developers on I want to say steroids, but that's not the proper thing to say. On supplements, right?
Yeah,
On
yeah,
legal
yeah.
supplements. That it can basically build any kind of application. They are so great at taking a use case from our platform and coming up with a proof of concept, a functional proof of concept, and then being able to basically prove out those technical proof points for our customers on, say, well, hey, can you build an application that runs this kind of back-end processing job, and modify the data in this way, and then and create a report, and yes, and then in 1 to 2 days or less, more likely less, they'll have it up and running and working. And so I work with some fantastic solution architects, and my role is just to basically help supplement them when the conversation steers to security and says, okay, and so I feel like in America, we have baseball's our national pastime, and I've told people, say my role is like a 6th inning relief pitcher. So when the process comes to talk to security, like, okay, let's call in Fred from the bullpen. He'll meet with your security folks. He'll answer your questions. He'll help you with a security questionnaire. We'll go through everything, and then I hand the ball back to my team, and they continue on the process to help our customer, build that application, or implement that application that they want to build, and get value from our platform. And then when I'm not doing those things, I'm helping just internally with here's new features that are coming out, and here's what it means for the platform, and basically kind of helping my colleagues with those bullet points, just to make sure that they understand the new security features that are coming out.
Yeah, and with low code, obviously it's seen as fast and agile, right? So
Yeah.
how do you ensure it's also secure and compliant at such a scale?
Yeah, so there's multiple ways. So what I was really impressed with when I joined OutSystems was this list we had for OutSystems 11, O11 as we like to call it. And it had this list of, here are the 200 security controls that are in the OutSystems platform. And they're all grouped by type, by identity, by malware scanning, by all of these different things. I'm like, our platform does all of this? And it's an eye chart, and it's supposed to be an eye chart, right? But it just really to prove of everything that happens. And so when I joined and I got the ability to basically start experimenting with the platform myself, and the first time I hit the 1CP, our one-click publish button, and then I see all of these, checks that are happening behind the scenes during the publishing process, and what's happening. And I'd ask, hey, why is it taking so long? So, well, and it's so long, like 70 seconds, right?
Yeah.
But what's happening? It's like, oh, well, it's scanning all of your coding patterns, the coding patterns that are generated, and it's looking for security vulnerabilities. It's looking for performance issues. It's looking for all of these things before you'll even publish it. And then if there's anything that's questionable or borderline, then you'll have error and alert messages to go triage. So from that standpoint, I was like, wow, that's amazing. And then fast forward to ODC, where it's all cloud native and containerized, and then knowing the fact that all of our customers' production app containers are scanned every single day for any kind of vulnerability is amazing. But what's even better is that not only do we scan every day and provide a dashboard, say, hey, here's the vulnerabilities that are found, that they'll automatically get patched, and there's no downtime. So, and you can customize that, and we can go into the details of it, but for critical vulnerabilities, automatically get patched, and there's no downtime. I mean, that's a chief information security officer's dream. Right? What do you mean? I don't have to manage the patching. I don't have to make sure it aligns with my company's patching policies. I can configure it to match my patching policies. Fantastic. So to answer your question, I mean, those type of things. So the automated scanning on the front end, where the developer is using our IDE, before publishing, and the continuous scanning in production. I mean, that I think that's two of the key ways of how we keep our customers' applications safe and secure.
Yeah, amazing. And when you're joining, like you said, you'll end up joining these calls when the security topic comes up, right? What are some common security concerns you hear from customers, and how do you kind of help them stay compliant and not slow anything down?
Yeah, so there's a lot of talk about zero trust and role-based access. And what I really appreciate about the OutSystems platform is we are able to integrate with customers' identity providers. So whether they're on Azure AD or Okta or Ping Federate or whatever they're using, we can basically take their users and their groups and work with those. And then that means the development teams can create roles and access and create that granular position or those granular permissions and say, well, members of this group can only see orders in this application, but members of this group can create orders. And so we can create in the application level, we can create the necessary permissions from a functionality standpoint. And then also from a platform standpoint. So for the developers using the OutSystems developers using the platform, they can also, so a platform administrator can segregate and say, okay, members of this team can only work on these 5 apps, and members of these teams can only work on these, these 2 apps over here. And so Bob on this team can't see what Cheryl's working on over here.
Yeah.
And so that's important for large enterprises that have, hey, we have a team that's working with HR data. We don't need the team that's working on an external project over here working, seeing that internal HR data. And so those are really, that's one of the big concerns is about not only identity, but just role-based access and who can access what and when. And then also too, so that conversation will naturally lead to say, okay, well, that's great on our end, but from an OutSystems perspective, what can you see? What can your support team see of our infrastructure and our data? Do you have access to it? And the short answer is, we don't unless you give us access to it, right? So from a troubleshooting standpoint, and this is something that I just recently learned within the last 6 months, and it really blew me away that we had gone through and thought it's our security team has an alert set up so that if there's any unauthorized access by an OutSystems employee or someone in internal access of a customer's infrastructure, then if there's not an open support ticket, then that automatically creates a security event that's automatically investigated and reviewed in our security operations center. So God forbid, I decided to go rogue and if I had the permissions to our customer infrastructure,
Yeah.
which I don't, and the know-how, as soon as I would, try to run a query against a table, then alert would go off in our security operations center because there's not an open ticket and things. I'm like, wow, that's impressive. And
Very
also
impressive,
too, the
yeah.
guardrails that we have for our support team, we have just-in-time provisioning. So our support representatives that are engaged with our customers in an active support incident, they're only able to access it for 4 hours. And then their access gets cut off, and then they have to re-request it. And a person actually, someone higher in command actually has to approve it. So it's not just an automated, oh, hey, give me more time, and it gives you more time kind of thing. And so there's a whole bunch of other security controls we have in place because our customers' data and infrastructure and applications in our platform, that's our lifeblood. And we have to protect those because, again, like we talked about at the beginning, the type of applications that are being built, I mean, mission critical applications that are, if there's an unplanned outage, it could cost our customers millions and millions of dollars or worse, some type of, I hate to be overly dramatic, but loss of life, loss of property, those kind of things. I mean, that was really, when I kind of fully appreciated that, then when my eyes kind of, really opened wide, like, oh my, wow. And so we have to be secure. So our security office, again, you talk about, thankless jobs. And at the beginning, we talked about thankless jobs of being content creators and all the behind the scenes things of editing we have to do. Our security team, I think, is one of the most thankless jobs because they work so hard. Our GRC team, governance, risk, and compliance, they go through at least 13 audits a year. 13, and it's a team of 4 or 5. And going through because of it's not just SOC 2 Type 2, but there's ENS, which is Spain's cybersecurity compliance regulation. It's for DORA for the UK banking. There's ISO and here in the US HIPAA and PCI. so many different certifications and attestations that we have to have to,
Yeah.
provide that trust to our customers that, the OutSystems platform is safe and secure.
Yeah, and it's great you speak about that, because I think security is something that's not really, spoken about, as much, right? And
Yeah.
I think even if you flip it to the developer side, right? There's a security certification, that can be done.
Right.
And I see on LinkedIn people posting their badges every day,
Oh,
right?
sure.
And
Oh, yeah.
obviously there's the types who will just get certain badges, and there's the types who just want every badge, right? Because it's something for their own kind of
Yep.
determination to just have all the badges, right? But
Yeah.
the security one's one I don't see as much, and I'd like to know from your point of view, do you think that's something that, not only developers, people in the community should really focus on and make that a priority? The people will go do develop, they'll do reactive or ODC, they'll do
Right.
architecture, and they'll try and move on to other things. Do you think this is something that should be really kind of, they should focus on in the early stages if they're going for certifications?
Well, I'm biased, of course. Of course, I'm going to say yes, of course, because I'm a security person. But
Yeah.
yeah, that is something internally we're really talking about, of trying to promote that certification even more so to our development community. I mean, it's still we talk about the use cases that the applications
Yeah.
our customers build, and so we still have a shared responsibility model. It's still up to
Mm.
the developers of those applications to ensure best security practices are being put in place, right? They still need to come up with security requirements. They still need to create a threat model. They still need to go through and evaluate what kind of controls do we need at login? Do we need a CAPTCHA? Do we need rate limiting? How do we prevent or reduce the risk of a denial of service attack, or a brute force password spring attack, or do we need multi-factor authentication? All of those things, and following the OWASP top 10, OutSystems assists with a ton of that. But in the unlikely event that a developer, kind of goes astray, either intentionally or unintentionally, yes, I think that this security certification will help reinforce those best practices and those principles. So yes, I think every OutSystems developer should have the security specialization. But again, I'm biased,
Yeah.
so from that standpoint. But yeah, no, it also it applies to both O11 and ODC. So
Yeah.
there's and I'll provide that URL for you afterwards. If you want to put it in
Yeah,
your show
yeah,
notes, you can.
that'd be great. Yeah, definitely. And you touched on best practices, and what advice do you give to teams, that they should adopt from day one to build secure applications?
Yeah, so I mean, the big things I just kind of hit on it, like, right, creating a threat model,
Mm.
actually, talking to stakeholders about, types of users that are going to be logging in, using what are those, looking at, basically kind of planning out what are you going to need in your security audit logs, at the
Mm.
application level. OutSystems has a great, platform logging functionality built in for accessing the platform. But sometimes our customers don't fully appreciate part of the shared responsibility model of building a safe and secure application is
Yeah.
they also need to, ensure that the proper items are being logged in there at the application level as well. And so that's up to them. Now we have the functionality provided to make that easy for them, but they still have to determine, specifically around invalid login attempts and those kind of things. So that's what, and defining your authentication plan, right? So how are you going to authenticate? Are you going to be connecting to an IDP? Are you going to have your own, identity, provider? Or is it just username and password? I hope not. It's 2025. I hope that we're using passwordless or multi-factor authentication or something else besides just an 8-character password. But having those conversations, so a good, part of the product management process is basically and is having this secure by design, secure software development lifecycle. You still have to go through that, whether you're using OutSystems or Visual Studio, or if you're just coding hand by hand or line by line in a text editor. You still have to go through those processes.
Yeah, yeah. And a lot of these businesses will be, looking to integrate, and with legacy systems and third-party services. How do you approach, them doing that securely without systems?
So we have so many customers that use APIs to connect to various different
Yeah.
services. And so the number one thing we make sure is all of our APIs are encrypted and have authentication, in place. So it's either with a token or, we just have to make sure that all of that traffic is encrypted and not available. The other thing is we have, especially specifically in our for our ODC customers that want to connect back to their on-premise, maybe whether it's a database, an SMTP server, or anything that they want to. ODC has this great functionality called private gateway, and so instead of having a network team set up a VPN or modify their VPN settings to basically join the OutSystems network and their corporate network together, private gateway actually just allows the OutSystems cloud just to talk to the 1 or 2 or 10 resources that OutSystems needs to talk to. We don't need to talk to the company's print server and pull a list of all of their printers, unless we're creating an application that is
Yeah.
measuring toner or something.
Yeah.
You never know, right? I mean, it's
Yeah.
just you never know what can be built. But for the most part, we don't need to see every single node on a customer's network. So what Private Gateway allows is creates a secure tunnel between the OutSystems cloud, the OutSystems Developer Cloud (ODC), and the customer's data center. And it's very simple to set up and maintain, and it's always running, and so it helps with availability from that standpoint. But it is it's so much easier to do. I mean, so when Private Gateway came out, I was trying to think of a way to test it internally. And it's like, well, I don't have a database server here behind me. I don't have
Yeah.
I could probably spin one up in EC2, and it's like, hey, look at this data set, this database that I'm connecting to, and I connected via Private Gateway, and I ran a query, and here's the result. That's
Yeah.
like, that's kind of boring. So instead, I have a home automation server that's local in my house. And so it's like,
Nice.
well, wait a minute. So what if I put Private Gateway? So if I build an app in ODC and it just has a simple toggle, like on-off toggle, and then I connect it, and then I connect my install Private Gateway in my home network, but only expose it to my home automation server. So then from the ODC app, I could turn the light off and on in my office.
Oh,
And
nice.
so that's what I would demonstrate is, hey, I can, using Private Gateway, I can securely hit an isolated remote node, and then perform an action on it. So anyway,
Wow.
that's
That's impressive.
yeah. So from those two things, encrypting API traffic, using tools or using our Private Gateway to basically, and the best part about that is you're restricting that north-south traffic, basically.
Yeah.
So if God forbid, if there was an incident or something of that nature, well, we know it's only going to hit that server. It can't
Yeah.
go anywhere else and spread. So
Yeah.
containment is another
Yeah.
thing that we think about quite a bit at
Yeah.
OutSystems.
Great. Great. And for the last 2+ years, we've managed to go 30 odd minutes without mentioning the letters AI, and
Yeah.
it seems to
Yeah.
be in every conversation, right? And,
Yeah.
a lot of people I speak to, they try to have conversations and time how long until the AI conversation starts, right?
Yeah.
But obviously it's a conversation that needs to be had because that's where things are going. Obviously the platform itself is, there was a release last week, right? So there's things evolving, all the time. How do you see, Gen AI shaping in a security standpoint? How do you think that's going to kind of, is that going to create new risks, especially, when developers, they're using more AI to generate logic, versus before?
Yeah, it is definitely a concern, and it's definitely it's a great question. And so one of the things that at OutSystems that we implemented a couple of years ago was our own Gen AI policy for internally on how we're going to approach AI and how we're going to, or generative AI. Our leadership would tell you, said, well, we've been using AI at OutSystems for almost 20 years, and we have
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
our IDE and recognizing code patterns and providing accelerators for application development. But the generative AI is fairly new, right, to us. I mean, we have our mentor offering that will basically instantly create take a product requirements document, and in less than 10 minutes, here's an application that's that's, potentially, production deployment ready. There may need to be a few tweaks and things of that
Yeah.
nature, but the heavy lifting is done.
Yeah.
And so there's such a trade-off, and that's like, wow, all of this, I can have all of this, but then from a security standpoint, how do I know, is it really secure?
Mm.
And that's the ultimate question. And so at OutSystems, we're just so careful and guarded and cautious about the frameworks we use, and being transparent with our customers about those frameworks and LLMs that we use. And also too, our customers have the ability to decide the LLMs that they're using for their applications as well. We give them that option. Are they going to use Amazon Bedrock? Are they going to use
Yeah.
whatever? They can choose that as well. So they have a portion of that responsibility as well. So it is a challenge. I do think there's always going to be a need for someone to verify that
Yeah.
this is really doing what it said. So that's why it's, someone said, well, Fred, what are you doing differently from a security standpoint? Because we're using AI. It's like, well, we're still doing the same things. We're still conducting, pen tests
Yeah.
by external services, and we have an internal, red team that's doing, pen tests, looking for
Mm.
vulnerabilities. We're still doing all of our scans. We're still doing all of the various security practices. So I think if you have a solid security, program and practice in place, then you would still apply those same principles and controls to a product that has AI in it, to
Yeah.
a product that develops applications, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's following those best practices, I think, is the best way to go.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. And obviously, ODC is kind of evolving, and there's new things
Sure.
coming out all the time, and I think you did a video about it not too long ago, about the audit trail feature.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit more about how that helps improve visibility and compliance, because obviously ODC is the direction things are moving in, right? So it's good to know a bit more about all the things, especially security wise, that are going on.
Yeah, no, I was really excited when this feature was released. So ODC's Audit Trail allows our customers to basically see line by line log of activity within the ODC platform. So whether it's a developer logs in, whether it's an application was deployed from dev to state, or dev to stage, or stage to prod, just a line by line. Basically readout of what's happening in your platform. And so it's just, as the platform continues to grow and mature, it's something that, it needed to be there, and I'm just glad it is. And it's
Yeah.
there for all users, for all customers have that ability. And then they can view 30 days of activity on via the UI, or if they need, a longer retention, there's a CSV export as well. And so, and then eventually, at some point, I know it's on the roadmap. I'm not going to say when, but
Yeah.
it's on the roadmap that the ability to stream that into a customer's SIM, or into their environment for their own log collation. They'll be able
Wow.
to do that at some point. So,
Wow.
so I'm really glad of that, because it just gives our customers yet another data point, another way to assist whether if they have they have the bad day and they have a security incident, then now they can go
Yeah.
back and review the data and
Yeah.
investigate properly. Or they can, but also just from a troubleshooting standpoint, it's like, wait a
Mm.
minute, how come my app's not working the way? It's like, well, has anyone else been in and deployed it? Well, now they'll be
Yeah.
able to easily see that.
Yeah. That's impressive. Very impressive. Yeah, and I think it's good for people to kind of I think it's great that whenever something on that security standpoint does come out, you're highlighting it in a video, right? So it's kind of, I think the videos for something like everyone's different. Obviously when
Sure.
OutSystems is a new feature, there'll be a LinkedIn post with a link to the
Oh yeah.
website, and there's
Yeah.
something about reading something versus watching something, and watching an expert talk about it. For me personally, I feel is much better, because it's someone kind of telling you a bit more about it, and you can understand in a bit more detail. So I look forward to continually seeing the videos.
Oh,
But yeah,
excellent.
but finally, from a security standpoint, What's one piece of advice you would give to a CIO, CISO, you know, some evaluating low code platforms today?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing is that OutSystems is more than a tool, right? It's more than the IDE. It's more than the it's it is a true platform, and you're going to get so much value out of the applications that you build on our platform. You're going to want to build more, and if you're going to want to build more, then you're going to have to your servers going to want to make sure that it's secure as well. And so with that growth, we want to be a partner with the customer. So and so when a customer deploys that first application, we are so thrilled and so happy that they are able to get that application into production, because we know they're going to get value. We
Yeah.
also know that they're probably going to develop more. And that's great it's great for us. Obviously, we want we
Mm.
want our customers to be successful, because let's be transparent. We want them to continue to grow their
Yeah.
OutSystems usage. Of course we do, but to see that excitement and say, hey, you know what, we got this application, we thought it was going to take us a year. We got it to production in 6 weeks. We
Yeah.
have 50,000 field users that are now able to use this application on a tablet, and we can eliminate paper processes, or we can really improve. My goodness, I mean, it's infectious. And then not only from a business value standpoint, but just from an overall morale. It's like, hey, my company just released this new app for all my call center colleagues, and now we're able to process calls more. The morale goes up. Efficiency goes up. Those kind of things. It's a true partnership, and at OutSystems, that's something that we really try to make sure that we want to, when we're talking with a customer, we want to know all about the organization and the challenges, so that we can basically say, hey, we just don't want to sell you, hey, here's Service Studio, here's some
Yeah.
manuals, here's some web articles, go build an application. No, we
Yeah.
want you to be successful. That's why we have our professional services group. That's why we have
Yeah.
partners that will help customers accelerate their development if they don't want to do it in-house initially.
Mm.
Uh, and so I think it is a true partnership. And part of having a true partnership is you want that you want that vendor partner to make sure that,
Yeah.
all the I's are dotted, the T's are crossed.
Yeah.
And that's why, again, I want to just highlight our security office and our security team and the security leadership for all of the effort that they go through, not only to keep OutSystems safe and secure and our customers safe and secure, but to go through just the due diligence of 13 plus audits a year, and going through all of the vendor reviews and and fielding all of the questions from customers as well. It is just amazing the work that team does, and I'm honored to call them a friend.
Yeah. Amazing. And I'm interested to know, has there ever been, you know, a, a deal with a customer where, you know, the security part has, got it over the line, where, obviously it's been going, obviously there might be concerns about several things, but
Sure.
security's kind of helped push it through.
Oh, absolutely. I can think of one that's just during my first year here. I was actually on the road traveling I was on vacation. I was traveling home, but yet there was this important call, and I was like, oh, well, okay, yeah. And but we pulled over at the side of the road, and my wife started driving, and I got on the laptop and on Zoom, and everything.
Wow.
The call went fine, but
Yeah.
but I remember that conversation. It's like the customer was a mortgage lender, and they specialize in providing loans to military members. And I was like,
Mm.
oh, and so they said, we cannot have a data breach. They said,
Yeah.
we are serving, we're serving our nation's heroes,
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
land last thing we want is to have any kind of, and they drilled us hard on all of our security procedures and protocols, and who has access, and who can see, and who has the ability to decrypt keys and
Yeah.
everything. And it was there were multiple conversations, and we had to pull in a few experts as well to help answer all of their questions.
Yeah.
But in the end, it really made me appreciate the not just due diligence, like, hey, do they have
Mm.
a SOC 2 report? Yeah, they do. Okay, they're good, right? They spent the money with an
Yeah.
auditor. They've gone through some hours of pain with an auditor. Okay, they're
Yeah.
probably legit. No, with OutSystems, we have gone through so many different audits and reviews, internal, external, vulnerability scans. I mean, it's just um, It is amazing, and the thing
Yeah,
is, our systems are scanned and scanned for potential attacks every single day, just like everybody
mm,
else.
yeah,
And so it's you you know we hope that we never have that boom incident, right?
yeah,
And
of
so
course.
we always try to make sure that we have all of those activities left of the boom, right? So I call them
Yeah,
left of boom activities, right? So we're trying to make sure that we have everything in place to reduce or minimize and prevent that boom event from happening. And then also too, but at OutSystems, we think of right of boom activities as well. How do we recover? So okay, in the event the application does go offline, how do we recover that? Or if there's a major incident, what do we do? What's our chain of command, and who do we communicate to, and make sure we're pulling in the proper people at the proper time. And so we go through we test those procedures, as we're supposed to. So just trying to make sure we're doing those left of boom and
yeah,
right of boom activities.
yeah.
Hopefully, will make the boom if it does happen, maybe it's a blip and not a boom.
Yeah, yeah,
But
of course, yeah. Amazing, amazing. Well, Fred, it was a pleasure to speak to you. Thank you for sharing, your journey, your insights, your journey into our systems, and you know, kind of it's extraordinary to hear. It's a kind of direction you were pushed into, and now you're obviously deep in it, passionate about it. You love it, and you get to kind of I think what's great about your role is I mean, but I can imagine because you're speaking to so many customers,
yeah,
every day isn't the same. It's different use cases, different,
yeah,
situations where, some people might be in security, but doing the same thing every day.
yeah, and so that is kind of the one of the things about security I really enjoy is that every day is different, and you never
Yeah.
know what's going to happen. Something's going to come out of left field. I want to share this
Yeah.
one story. It's not an
Yeah.
OutSystems story, but it happened at
Yeah.
my
Sure.
prior employer. And so this was before the pandemic. We're all in the office, and I get a phone call transferred to my desk. I'm still kind of fun, like, what phone call? Who's calling me on the phone?
Yeah.
And normally at that time, it was cold calls for security tools and those
Yeah.
things. And I'm like, huh. So I pick up the call and I said, are you in charge of security at the company I was working for? He says,
Yeah.
well, yeah. And I'm thinking like, oh, what is this going to be? He says,
Yeah.
well, we need a favor. He says, I own the building across the street from you, and we have this robot statue outside, and someone took the arm off of it. And can we look at your security camera footage to see if we can identify who did it? I'm like, huh, wasn't expecting this today.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And so
Yeah.
we did it. We had footage, but unfortunately, there was a giant tree in the way and the line of sight
Oh
between
no.
our camera and the parking lot. We weren't able to
Yeah.
help. But
Uh,
it was one of those things. It's like, well, I didn't think I'd be spending 2 hours of my
yeah.
day going through
Yeah.
security
Doing that.
camera footage looking for a robot statue vandal. Uh, so you just never know what's going to
Yeah.
happen.
You don't. You
Those
don't.
kind of things. But no, that's really why I enjoy the being a small part of the industry of
Yeah.
cybersecurity. I enjoy teaching others about being safe and secure. It's really helped me kind of just go on a I don't know, I don't want to call it a hobby, but
Mhm.
just kind of a passion project of educating others on security awareness. So
Yeah.
I speak to groups that may not have security awareness training, so like
Mm.
church groups and things like that, and go
Nice.
through it. I say, hey, when you get these messages on your phone, it's not really Sally looking
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can block it,
Yeah.
and those kind of things. So
Yeah.
I do appreciate those opportunities to help
Yeah.
spread the word about
Yeah.
cybersecurity. And with and as we talked about earlier with AI and everything, it's
Mm.
recognizing scams
Yeah.
is going to be a lot harder,
Even more
specifically for
important
those
now.
that are younger than us, right?
Yes. Yes.
Because they're going to grow up with it, and it's going to yeah. So anyway, but yes, I enjoy it. It's been fantastic,
Yeah.
and joining OutSystems has been a treat and a delight, just because of not only the talking to the customers, which have been fantastic, but I worked with some of the most fantastic people here, and everybody's very supportive. I have some of the greatest colleagues, and I just it's been the best.
Yeah, it's a great team, and that's why I enjoy interviewing people from OutSystems because there's such a vast background of people that have come in to join this low code wave, whether they've heard of it before or not, may have been
Yeah,
skeptical of it before, but then once they're in, they're obviously you're working for the company, so you're going to say great things, but you
sure.
can just you can't fake passion, right? And when you
Yeah,
talk to them, you can really see they really believe in this thing, right? And they're really passionate about it. And then especially, like you said, when you're speaking to customers and when you're in that meeting with the customer and you see the customer's aha moment that actually, wow, this is better than what I thought it is, right? So
yeah,
it's all those things just makes you even more kind of, satisfied with what you're doing on a day to day.
absolutely, absolutely. I've never had a boring day at OutSystems, and I hope I never
Yeah.
do.
Yeah, amazing. Well, no, once again, I appreciate it, Fred. It was great to speak to you, and keep the videos coming. They're definitely being seen, and
Absolutely,
I look forward to, the next one will be probably me and you going around together now. So we'll get that ready and out there.
absolutely,
But I
absolutely.
look forward to
We'll
seeing
do
more.
some cross promotion here, and so
Yeah,
yes,
definitely.
let me say these words. Follow me on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
That's right.
I say click the link below.
That's right. And go get that
Amazing.
security certification
Yes, exactly.
too.
Definitely. Thanks,
All right.
Fred.
You bet. Take
Take
care.
care.